The biggest question mark for the Chicago Bulls moving into next season is what are they going to do with Zach LaVine? We had saw that reportedly there have been about 15 trade proposals out there and none have actually gone through. However, there is a trade in which we go ahead and trade for Ben Simmons straight up, which will not only help the Chicago Bulls with their salary cap, but it would allow the Chicago Bulls to get off of Zach LaVine's long contract. We're going to talk about that. This is Rico Greenhowe, and this is another episode in Bulls Digest. And before we go ahead and jump into it, wanted to let you know that 77.4% of you guys that watch the videos are not subscribed to the channel. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with the latest news and happenings around your Chicago Bulls. And without further ado, guys, let's go ahead and jump into the topic of the day, which is LaVine, and it's an update. All right, so the LaVine update. All right, guys, and so look, it's no big secret that we have tried to move on from Zach LaVine, and I just think one of the ironies about this situation is that the Golden State Warriors were supposed to be linked to the Chicago Bulls in going after Zach LaVine, especially if they struck out with Paul George, which they did. And I guess we had actually picked up the phone and we had tried to either have a discussion to have Chris Paul or Andrew Wiggins. It was kind of an either or kind of deal. And not only did the Golden State Warriors decline the deal, they cut Chris Paul, and they now are still looking to shop Andrew Wiggins, guys. And so I don't know what to really make of this, guys. I mean, here's a player that supposedly was on the list for the Golden State Warriors. They struck out in free agency and they still didn't want this guy. So I don't understand it. I don't get it. I don't know if I've ever seen such a situation like this, guys. But look, this is essentially the state of the Bulls at this point in time, guys. Kind of just digging into what is going on. Look, here is what the possible deal would look like if we were to make this deal with the Nets. So we would go ahead and just outright swap Zach LaVine and Ben Simmons. We would trim $2 million in this particular deal. Chicago would get off a long-term money quicker in this situation. Simmons' contract expires at the end of the year. And then I love what it says at the end, guys, where it says the Bulls would get closer to their rebuild and Brooklyn gets their star. They can put up the banners outside the Barclays Center. So I thought that's hilarious. But in any case, guys, look, Brooklyn would go ahead and get a star that maybe they want to build around, maybe not. I don't know what that situation looks like. Maybe they want to flip that. But for us, guys, I know we've talked about this. I thought that it was ludicrous to do this at this point in time. But right now, look, Ben Simmons, even if he's out there with us, I don't think he necessarily would get in the way as far as us developing our talent. And to be honest with you, I'm not even sure that Ben Simmons is necessarily going to be healthy enough. I mean, you saw what happened in Brooklyn. It seemed like pretty much every other month they're talking about the back situation, and it just doesn't look good and hasn't looked good since he's left Philadelphia. And I don't think a buyout would be coming, especially with our management. I think that this would just be an outright, we might be eating up that contract for the year. But at the end of the day, we're getting off something that's long term here. And I think that right now that maybe makes a lot of sense for us. I mean, there's some people that feel like, hey, if we just sit on him and let Zach LaVine maybe play up his value, that is a possibility as well, guys. But, I'm not sure, because this situation, it almost reminds me of something in the past, guys. And I must say that when I looked at this, I'm thinking that the Chicago Bulls had to kind of know what they were getting into before they even traded for Zach LaVine. So, look, I found this article back in 2014 before Zach LaVine was headed out of UCLA, guys. And I thought it was interesting, and it tells a lot of actually what's going on with the Chicago Bulls now, all right? And so, look, it says, Zach LaVine unhappy with his role at UCLA, and he's leaving for the NBA. This is 2014. You can see that, guys. And at the time, this is when I think Cal Anderson was there. Norman Powell played there as well. That's the one that's playing for the Clippers. He was in the sixth man of the year running, and we talked about that before on the channel. But those were some of his teammates, and I'm not sure if Looney was there or not. I'd have to go back and look. But anyhow, he was a freshman guard coming in, And I had a chance to actually watch him as well up close and personal. And I saw it and I was like, man, this guy is really good. But when you look at what took place, guys, I think that he had really struggled towards the end of the year. And then I think that it came down to the fact that it wasn't that they were going to not play him. They just weren't going to play him at the point guard position, which he thought that he was naturally fit for at the time. But what's interesting, guys, is what else was said in this article, guys, because as this writer goes into what it would look like in the NBA, let me ask you, does this sound like something that we're going through at this point in time? All right. So he's clearly talking about the 6'5" frame, the explosive athleticism, right? Intriguing prospect. But he said at the same time, LaVine just is not ready for the NBA, right? He said aside from his finishing transition and knocking down the three ball with the spot ups and things like that, he struggles at the mid range. He struggles to create for himself or others off the dribble, and he's far from a lockdown defender, despite having the tools to become that someday. Where have we heard that from? Then it says that LaVine, as far as him projections wise, they're looking for like kind of a stash and develop gamble in the NBA. There's a chance he never reaches his potential. There's a chance he blossoms, and there's a chance it takes him a long time to blossom, and it could be on another team by the time he does, guys. And so, look, I thought that last part of the article where it's talking about, look, he's not a lockdown defender, which I think that we can agree on right there. And I think he has gotten better as a mid-range shooter. I think he's gotten better as a three-point shooter. But he's not necessarily a guy that you can just give the ball to and have him make decisions. He's not going to make people better that way, guys. And so I think that that's one of the things where we've struggled with it at times because, he'll take it and then just go into places and then kind of jack it up. And we're saying that is not a great shot selection, man. Or, just on the defensive end, at times he's just not locked in. And I just think at some point, guys, like, we get really excited about the athleticism and the wow factor, but at some point you've got to put it all together, guys. And I'm not saying that he didn't go out and, deserve his contract, but I just wonder, was the hunger still there? Is it still there to continue to try to drive to get to the best player that you possibly can get to? But when you look back at what was said going into this particular NBA draft, guys, I think that we're running into these situations right now on the Chicago Bulls. And I think that that's very interesting and it's very telling. And I think that some people who have been in the comments and then just out there in the outlets have said, look, the Bulls got what they signed up for. So with that being said, guys, do you feel like the Bulls got exactly what they signed up for? Do you feel like the Ben Simmons deal is something that you're like, sign me up for right now? Or do you still feel like, look, hey, I think that Zach LaVine can turn it around. He can kiss and make up with the franchise. He's going to be able to pick it up. His ego's not going to be hurt. His feelings aren't going to be hurt. He's going to be able to put everything behind him, try to play with Giddey, and be a star out here for the Chicago Bulls. Let me know what you guys are thinking in the comments, guys. And even though it looks like, guys, that we got the player we signed up for and it's not turning out very well, I'm still saying go Bulls, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace, peace, peace.